Hello everyone, today's video is going to be about my experience at basic training graduation for the military in Fort Benning, Georgia. So let's get started. Some of you may be asking, why the heck are you sitting on the floor? And why is there a random plant right here? I don't really have anywhere else to film in my room with good lighting, and so I brought this plant over here, and I have this, and my boyfriend made fun of me for putting that plant there, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So let's get started. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia last year in June. I was talking to he wasn't my boyfriend at the time, but I was talking to him. We were lettering back and forth, and I knew his graduation was coming up and I really wanted to go, so I just decided I'm gonna go for it. My parents were like, okay, she's going, because I'm 20 years old, they're not gonna stop me. I mean, I made it pretty clear that I cared this much about him and I wanted to go, so I did. So I bought my flight, I bought my Airbnb, I bought my rental car, I did all the stuff I needed to do to go. I showed up at his family's house to ask them if they were going to the graduation, and they told me they weren't going. So I, at that point, realized I was going by myself. This was very scary for me. It was the first trip I've ever done that had, first of all, a 5-hour flight. I just had never done anything like this by myself. So not only was this trip a huge learning experience for myself, but it was a huge step for our relationship, and it just took off from there. So let's first get started with my process and what I did to get there and all of that kind of stuff. I had done months of research before I went, because I did not know anything about Georgia. I didn't know anything about the military. I don't know anything about the military still. I had no idea what I was doing, so after months of research, I was researching and watching YouTube videos of girls that had gone to these graduations to kind of figure out what I was going to be doing and how it was going to be like, because I'm the type of person who likes to know what I'm going into, or I get really anxious and nervous. So I did a bunch of research, watched YouTube videos, but none of the YouTube videos really helped me. It was just people vlogging and showing like what they were doing in the day, but no one ever really talked about it. So that's why I'm making this video. And I remember last year I told myself I'm gonna make a YouTube video because I would want to help someone who was like me in this situation and wanted to go support their significant other, or just a friend or a family member, and you have no idea what you're gonna do or where to go or anything like that. So I hope this video helps you if you come across it. If you know me and you just want to watch this video, then cool. You'll hear about my experience a year ago, but I'm so excited to make this video. I went to his family's house and found out they weren't going. I needed to get a letter from them, because to get onto the base, you have to have the letter. So this is the letter. It has all the information on what the day is going to look like. So at the time, he was in Alpha Company, 2nd Battalion, 58th Infantry Regiment. I don't know military terms, okay? Don't make fun of me if you're in the service and you're watching this. So he was in that at the time, and it shows on here that on Wednesday, June 5th at Pomeroy Field, the following is a timeline for the events. So 7 to 8, families and loved ones seated in the brigade chapel. 8 to 8:45, commanders brief in the brigade chapel. And 9 to 10, turning blue ceremony on the field. And then soldiers released for pass. So prior to this, I had gotten into Georgia on June 4th. I flew from California into the Atlanta airport. I picked up my rental car. So at the time I was 20 years old. You're allowed to rent rental cars if you're over 18, I believe, but you have to pay an extra fee. So I did pay an extra fee each day. It's kind of like an insurance, because they know you're but under 22, I believe it is, or maybe 24. they just make you pay that because you're more at risk. Since we're young, I guess we're worse at driving. I don't know how it works, but that's just what I had to pay. So I got into the airport, I got my rental car, and I went to my Airbnb. I had gotten an Airbnb in the city of Atlanta. So Fort Benning is about 2 hours away, like an hour 45, but 2 hours away from where my Airbnb was in Atlanta. I chose to stay in the Airbnb because I didn't know the Fort Benning area. I was researching it, I looked at hotels, I just felt more comfortable with staying in Atlanta, so I did. At my Airbnb in Atlanta, I checked in with the host, and then I went to the grocery store. That was the first time I've ever gone to Publix. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like a really popular grocery store on the East Coast. So it was cool. So I got some dinner, I got groceries for breakfast, and that was that. June 5th, I woke up very, very early because that was the morning of the Turning Blue ceremony. I had not seen Larson in 3 to 4 months, I think. I was so nervous I could not sleep. And I woke up at 4:30 and I got ready, and then I had to drive down to Fort Benning. So that's why I woke up so early, because it started at 7 and I needed to be there on time. So I woke up really early, and then I've done base. I had to show this letter, and I showed my ID, and they let me through because they knew that it was this graduation day. So that's how I got onto base. And then I showed up to the church and I saw all these families. I saw no one alone. Actually, I did walk in the church and it was so funny. I walked into the church and I see this woman walking by herself, probably a little older than me. So I walk in the bathroom before I go sit in the church, and she goes in too. So I asked her, because I'm a very open person. I'm open to just ask someone a question and see if they were alone. So she was in the bathroom and we were washing our hands, and I said, "Oh, like, are you here alone too?" And she was like, "Oh no, like my boyfriend's family's out there." And I felt so awkward. I was like, "How awesome, okay, bye." So then she left and I went into the church, and it was all families and significant others and all that kind of stuff. So I just sat and listened by myself. That meeting was the first time I ever really got to understand what he was doing and what the other soldiers were doing. I had a deeper understanding of what this whole thing was about, because I don't know anything about the Army. We were listening in the chapel for about an hour, and then they told us to exit and go to the other side of where the Turning Blue ceremony would be. I was so nervous. I wanted to die. I was walking by myself. People were looking at me like, this girl is by herself. I didn't see anyone else by themselves. But if you're like me and you want to go and you're gonna go by yourself, highly suggest go for it. It is so worth it. So I'm walking up to the arena and I stopped to go to the restroom because I'm nervous. I can't stop going to the bathroom. And so I go to the bathroom, and all of a sudden I hear this like singing. And I was like, what is that? And it was all of their voices singing, walking up. And so I'm getting even more nervous. Now I'm walking out of the bathroom and I start calling my mom, and I'm like, I am so nervous. I can't do this, like laughing. And so I walk out, and they're all inside of like this woods part where they're coming out from, and the stadium's over here. And I look over, and Larson is at the front of all of them. And so I look, and he doesn't see me because they have to, focus. And so I just look and I start going that way because I didn't want him to see me yet. And so they're all standing there. I go and I sit down by myself at the end of the stadium, and I was really lucky that I got to see where he was, because if I didn't know, or if I didn't see that he was at the front right there, I would have had no idea where he was. So that's one thing I was so nervous about leading up to it, was how am I gonna find him? He couldn't write me back to let me know where he was, and he couldn't call me, so that was really nerve-wracking, but I got so lucky and I noticed that he was in the front, so I went and sat according to where he would have stopped. And so I sat down, they sang, they walk in, and I'll insert a clip here of them doing that. At a time in there where we got to all the people who were going to put this on their soldier got to go out. So around the middle of the ceremony, I got up when they said to get up, and I went to turn him blue, put the little rope on him, and I walked up to him, and we laugh about it. It was so awkward, but it was so funny. We were both so nervous, and I just walked up and I said hi, and he was smiling, and he was like, because I didn't walk up, they said go, and like I walked up like a minute late, and he thought I didn't make it on base. He said, I thought you got lost, I thought that they didn't let you on base. I was like, where is she? So I put his rope on, and then he told me, meet me over here when we're done, blah blah blah. Then that ceremony was over, and I got to hang out the rest of the day, so that was really cool. Every single thing is different, so you could listen to this video and kind of get like a brief overview of what my experience was about, but everyone's experience is different, so just remember that things may change, and this was just my experience last year. So then we hang out the rest of the day. We went and we got breakfast into this river, which was the river between Georgia and Alabama. So Fort Benning is very low in Georgia, like Atlanta's up here, and it's right like on the border of Alabama. So we went to a little river, we hung out, we went to the Army Museum, which was on base, and I got to see a bunch of different cool stuff in the museum. And then I went to pick up my friend Courtney. So at the time when I was here, I was messaging my friends, I'm so nervous to go, blah 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 blah. And Courtney, one of my friends, she said, I'm gonna go with you. And I told her, no, you do not have to come with me. And she said, no, I'm coming with, and I will never make it up to her for her coming. It was such a big deal for her to come, and I cannot thank her enough for coming with me. And we had an awesome trip. We were like, let's just make it fun. Like, if Larson, we didn't know how much time he would have off to hang out with us or hang out with me, so we said if he can only hang out one day, then okay, that's fine, we'll go explore Georgia. We were very like, let's just go with the flow for this trip, because with the Army, you don't know when they're going to release them and so on. And I left Larson around 4 p.m. I think, because I needed to drive an hour and 45 back up to the airport to pick up Courtney. So I left him. He had like a couple more hours off because they said that they needed to be back at a specific time. So in the letter it says, your soldier will need to be back no later than 7:45 on Wednesday, blah, 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 blah. There's a bunch of rules they have to follow. There were so many things I learned that day, which was so interesting, like going to breakfast, he was taking off his hat, all different kinds of things that were really interesting for me, because these were things I had never seen before, and these were also new to him because these were his first 3 months in the Army. I picked up Courtney. I'll show you a video.
Hello.
We went back to my Airbnb and we got some salads and we hung out and watched a movie. So we did that, and then the next morning we were waking up really early again to go to this graduation. So we woke up at 5. Courtney got me all cute, was curling my hair, and she got me coffee. I'll never forget that trip. And she was so cute, and so she helped me with all of that. She got ready, and then we were off at like 6 a.m. so we could get there in time to get a seat. Went to the graduation, and it was so hot outside and humid in Georgia. It's really hot, and it was still cloudy though. It looked like it was gonna rain, and it did start raining. So we were waiting in a really long line to get inside. We had our umbrellas, we were in dresses and flip-flops. It was really funny because we were like, we're from California and we wanna wear dresses, but it's raining, but it's hot. It was weird. Just two Cali girls taking on 75-degree weather with rain, so we can wear dresses. Remember that depending on what time the graduation is in the year, that it is pretty humid there, so check the weather. We sat down. It was about an hour and a half max of a ceremony. I'll insert some clips here of what the ceremony looked like.
Rifle Squad and Mortar Section, the foundation of the Army's decisive force and the embodiment of the warrior ethos. Infantry have the most challenging job of any member of the armed forces. They carry the fight to the enemy around the world. They are the standard bearer for all the armies of
was over, and we were going to the front because after they all marched off, like I just showed, we had to go find him. So we went to find him, and we did. He was in formation, some of his friends, and then we were unsure with whether or not he was gonna have time off before he went to airborne school. So I did want to show you this. When we were writing letters explaining to me the steps of his training, I guess. So right here it says, let me show you. He did a little display for me. So he showed me OSUT is the whole thing. I don't know what that stands for. Underneath that it says Basic Training and AIT. I know AIT is like an individual special training, but basic training is for all of them. So he went through these phases. He went through basic training, AIT, and all of it was 16-ish weeks, including airborne school. So my significant other is a paratrooper. So he was going to airborne school after we just went to this graduation. We didn't know if he was gonna get sent off right away or if he would have time off. So he ended up having to go, I don't remember where he had to go, but he wasn't allowed to leave right away. So what we did was Courtney and I were like, let's just go explore around here, get some food, and we'll wait to see what he says. He's busy doing stuff. Courtney and I go have fun. We went to the best Southern food I have ever had in my life. I can't even explain. We went to a place called Plucked Up Chicken Biscuits, and it was the cutest little place, country style. It had like bras on the wall. I don't know what that means, but so we went. I got French toast that was made out of biscuits. It was the best thing I've ever had, with fried chicken on top and maple syrup. And Courtney got home style country grits. So it was grits with like cheese and sausage. It was so good. I will never forget that place. We were driving around looking at the houses in Georgia. We just wanted to, explore the area since we were there. And then we decided he hadn't messaged me to let me know he could leave, so we were gonna just go back to the Airbnb because we're like, it's pouring out. Mind the fact, when we were out at that breakfast place, it was pouring so bad. I will insert a clip here of me and Courtney dying laughing, soaking wet. I almost slipped with my sandals. Those rainstorms in Georgia are no joke.
Update.
Finished there, we were starting to drive back to the Airbnb. So we were driving back maybe 45 minutes. We had already been going. It was raining so hard. Courtney and I were freaking out, thinking we were gonna die because windshield wipers were not even going fast enough for us to see. It was so scary. So we're driving, and then he calls me and he says, I've been released. Courtney and I look at each other, and Courtney was like, Larson! And we have to go back. And she was like, we have to go back. We came all the way here for him. Why would we not go get him? So we turned back around. We drove 40 minutes back to him, to the base, and we picked him up. We got him McDonald's because he was starving.
It's sausage legs.
And we decided, let's all go sit at a coffee shop because it was raining. We didn't know where to go, what to do. Fort Benning is a very small town. So we went to a coffee shop. We sat in there for about like 2 to 3 hours. We were just hanging out, having a great time talking. He was telling us his experience, and him and Courtney were getting to know each other because Courtney had never met him before. And I've known Larson since high school. So they just have never had the chance to meet, and so we were all hanging out there, and then we decided to go to a little Georgia museum. So it was a museum about the city and about the state, and that was cool. No one was in there. To go get some dinner, we went to Texas Roadhouse, kind of like our version of Outback. I don't know where there's any Texas Roadhouses here. I don't know if there are any, but over there it was Texas Roadhouse. So we got some steak, some burgers, some salads. They had the best like biscuits with warm butter and cinnamon to put on, which I've never seen. It's a southern thing. It was so good. So we got that, and then we took him back because he had to be back at a certain time. When they were there, they're not allowed to stay the night over anywhere. Took him back, and the next day, Courtney and I went and met up with some family friends. They lived in Georgia, so we went and did that. We had some burgers at a really good place, and then Courtney and I went back to the Airbnb and had a movie day because it was still pouring outside. Courtney and I are homebodies. We don't mind spending the day watching movies because we didn't know the city and it was pouring, and we're like, where would we even go? So we just decided to go inside. Larson eventually texted me and told me he had time off, but we weren't gonna drive all the way back down there, so I told him, go hang out with your friends. And so he spent time with his friends who didn't have family there, or he spent time with his friends' families. I don't remember which, but so then he hung out with them. The next day, I was supposed to leave with Courtney. Both of our flight was at 6 a.m. The previous day, Larson found out that he had extra time off. I decided to stay. I changed my flight. I wasn't gonna leave if I knew he had 2 extra days off, so I stayed. So I took Courtney to the airport at like 4 in the morning, last day of the Airbnb. So Larson was doing research for where I could stay, and we found a hotel on base. So this is the most important part for me to share in this video, is there is a hotel on base. If I would have known that, we would have stayed there, because driving back and forth, wasn't the best, but we didn't mind it. I totally would have stayed there. It was the Holiday Inn. It was so nice. So I dropped Courtney off at the airport and she flew home. Time with Courtney, we had so much fun. We were just texting the other day about this trip. We absolutely loved it. So then I dropped Courtney off at the airport, and I drove back to Larson. That was the most terrifying drive of my life. So as I stated before, Courtney and I got stuck in a storm, but this time I got stuck in a storm by myself. So I was driving back to Fort Benning. I got stuck in a huge storm. I have a fear of semi-trucks. They just freak me out. I don't like driving next to them. I always think they're gonna cut me off and come in my lane and they can't see me, and so I have a fear of them, and those were surrounded by my car, and it was raining. They kept braking. I could not even see who was in front of me. When it was almost there, I looked to the left and there was a car that flipped over in the middle center, and then there was another car in the bushes. I was so terrified. I was shaking. It was so scary. Weird though, because in Georgia you'd be like driving and you're in a storm, and then all of a sudden this little part you're not in a storm, and then you get back in a storm. It was really weird. I don't see that here in California, so I was like so scared. I finally arrive, I pick him up, I take him to Pluck It Up Chicken and Biscuits because I wanted him to try it. He gets a burrito, I get the French toast again. Where did we go next? We went to a mall. So we went to a shopping mall and hung out there. We went to this little area where you can go inside. It's kind of like Dave & Buster's. It was like an arcade place. So we went and we played some games because it was still raining. And then I checked into the hotel on base. All the families that were there for the graduation were there, because the next morning when I woke up, you get breakfast included in your room, and it was all the families. So clearly I didn't do enough research. I just never knew there was a hotel on base, so I didn't stay there. But that night, Saturday night, I did stay there, and he came over and we watched The Notebook together and we hung out, and then I had to take him back, which was really cool because since I was staying on base, like my base or my hotel was right here, and if I drove a little further down, where he was sleeping, his barracks were right there. So I dropped him back off because they had to be in formation at a certain time. Oh, also that day we went to Zaxby's. Not the best, but that's okay. He took me to Zaxby's because he, after high school, lived in Utah and they didn't have Cane's, they had Zaxby's, so that has been his like favorite. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I like Cane's and I am obsessed with the sauce, and it just wasn't the same, but it's okay. So we had some Zaxby's, and then the next morning I went to Dunkin' Donuts. I got some coffee on base, and then I eventually picked him up, brought him and his friend some coffee, and then we went back to the hotel, us three, and had some breakfast. And then Larson and I decided to go to Barnes & Noble. We were walking around, and then I had to leave. Sad day. But overall, the trip was so amazing, and I'm so glad I went. I hope this video helped anyone that is going through the process. I know right now it is a really big bummer with everything that's going on. A lot of things are canceled. I'm sure the soldiers that should be graduating right now are bummed because they're waiting. My significant other couldn't come home when he was supposed to earlier this month, so I totally feel for you. I understand, and I just hope that this video helps you out in the future if you come across it and you're going, because it was the best decision of my life to go, and I really hope this video helps you. So comment below if you have any questions. I also soon, if you're watching this and did watch the full thing, gonna post a video about my abroad experience. So if you're a college student and you want to know about going abroad, I'm gonna post that, which is gonna be really cool. But it's such a beautiful day outside right now, so I am going to go outside and go in the pool and get tan. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Have an awesome day, and thank you for watching.